The old hen grinned, showing those pale brown teeth. "Sometimes, if you're lucky," she said, "you get a beetle inside the stem of a stick of celery. That's what I like." "Grandma, how could you? You find all sorts of nice things in sticks of raw celery," the old woman went on. "Sometimes it's earrings." "I don't want to hear about it," cried George. "A big fat earring is very tasty," Grandma said, licking her lips. "But you've got to be very quick, my dear. When you put one of those in your mouth, it has a pair of sharp nippers on its back end, and if it grabs your tongue with those, it never lets go. So you've got to bite the earring first, chop chop, before it bites you." George stared at Edwin toward the door. He wanted to get as far away as possible from his filthy old woman. "You're trying to get away from me, aren't you?" she said, pointing a finger straight at George's face. "You're trying to get away from Grandma." Little George stood by the door staring at the old hen in the chair. She stared back at him. Could it be, George wondered, that she was a witch? He had always thought witches were only in fairy tales, but now he was not so sure. "Come closer to me, little boy," she said, beckoning to him with a horny finger. "Come closer to me and I will tell you secrets." George didn't move. Grandma didn't move either. "I know a great many secrets," she said, and suddenly she smiled. It was a thin, icy smile, the kind of snake might make just before it bites you. "Come over here to Grandma and she'll whisper a secret to you." George took a step backward, closer to the door. "You mustn't be frightened of your old grandma," she said, smiling that smile. George took another step backward. "Some of us," she said, and all at once she was leaning forward in her chair and whispering in the throaty sort of voice George had never heard her use before. "Some of us," she said, "have magic powers that can twist the creatures of this world, Earth, into wondrous shapes." A tingle of electricity flashed down the of George's spine. He began to feel frightened. "Some of us," the old woman went on, "have fire on our tongues and sharks in our bellies and wizardry in the tips of our fingers. Some of us know secrets that would make your hair stand straight up on end and your eyes pop out of their sockets. George wanted to run away, but his feet seemed stuck to the floor. We know how to make your nails drop off and teeth grow out of your finger instead. George began to tremble. It was her face that frightened him most of all. The frosty smile, the brilliant eyes. Brilliant, blinking eyes. We know how to have wake up in the morning with a long tail coming out from behind you. Grandma, he cried out, stop. We know secrets, my dear, about dark places where dark things live and squirmed and all over each other. George made a dive for the door. It doesn't matter how far you run, he heard her saying. You won't never get away. George ran into the kitchen, slamming the door behind him.